What's going on, everybody? It's the Home Theater Hobbyist here, and today we have our full review of the 9-channel amplifier from Emotiva. This is the XPA-9, so let's get to it. If you enjoy product reviews, unboxings, talk about streaming media, and basically all things home theater, why don't you click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime we upload new content. So here it is, the XPA-9 from Emotiva. As I said in the intro, this is a 9-channel amplifier. Now, the things I'm going to say in this review will cover all the other amplifiers in the XPA lineup, including the 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11-channel versions. They all have the same basic design and the same chassis. The only difference is the number of modules inside the box. This 9-channel version has both the high-powered and stereo modules, and I'm going to talk about those in the sound quality section, so everything I say should apply to the entire range. The XPA-9 is just one amplifier in the XPA line. The line includes a 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11-channel versions. There's also a build your own option, so you can configure the amplifier to your needs. All XPA amplifiers use high-powered single-channel modules. The XPA-9 uses 5 of these. The high-powered single-channel module outputs 300 watts RMS per channel into 8 ohms, one channel driven from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, and 400 watts RMS per channel into 4 ohms, one channel driven from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, both with a total harmonic distortion of less than 0.1%. Both the XPA-9 and XPA-11 also include stereo modules, 2 for the XPA-9 and 4 for the XPA-11. The stereo modules output 65 watts RMS per channel into 8 ohms, 2 channels driven, and 100 watts RMS per channel into 4 ohms, 2 channels driven, both with a total harmonic distortion of less than 0.1%. The XPA-9 is 8 inches tall, 17 inches wide, and 19 inches deep. It weighs 53 pounds. The XPA line starts at $9.99 for the 2-channel version and goes up to $19.99 for the 9 and 11-channel versions. Now, if you're interested in this amplifier, or you want to purchase it, or anything else from Emotiva, why don't you click that link in the description below so you can find out more about their products. So why should you add an external amplifier like this one to your system? The basic answer is you get more dedicated power per channel. With a traditional AV receiver, they output anywhere from, let's say, 80 to 150 watts per channel, and that is 2 channels driven. As you add more channels, let's say 5, 7, 9-channel amplifier, those power levels are going to drop. Well, with an external amplifier, you get dedicated power per channel. So the high-powered module in here outputs 300 watts per channel across the entire frequency range. So you get all that power, and that means you get better detail and more clarity, so you can really hear what's going on in your favorite music or your favorite movie. To add an external amplifier like this one to your system, you will need a processor that has either RCA or XLR connections out, or you can use an AV receiver that has pre-out connections for your speakers. The XPA line of amplifiers features a heavy-duty steel construction. The front panel looks very nice with the brushed metal look there. You've got the Emotiva logo up top and a status panel just below that. There's a light for each one of the channels, blue if everything's fine, and red if there's a fault. Down here at the bottom left, you have the 9 for the model that I have here, but the number changes based on which model you have. In the center, you have the secondary power button. Right now it's orange, but if we push it, it turns blue as the amplifier turns on. As you can see there, the status light indicators ramped up because the amplifier is on, and in just a moment it'll turn blue. On the far right over here, it says XPA Gen 3. On the back of the amplifier lineup is where all the business happens. This is where you have all your connections. Starting here on the left at the top, you have your trigger. This turns the amplifier on or off from your preprocessor or AV receiver. This is the in and this is the out. So if you wanted to connect another amplifier, one trigger in and one to connect out. Just below that, you have your status LEDs that you can turn off and on, and that's up front. Below that, you have the circuit breaker. If something happens, you can press that button, and you have your power connection there. Right here, you have your main power switch that's on or off, and then of course you can turn it on with the secondary power button up front. Next, you have your stereo module. Up top, you have your left and right RCA connections and a button to select either XLR or RCA connection just below that. And then you move on to get your XLR right and left connections there. And of course your speaker connections, right then left. I really like these speaker connection binding posts because they're really nice and high quality. I think that's just a nice design feature there. Next, you have your high powered module, and you've got your RCA connection up here along with the input selection for which input you're going to use, either RCA or balanced XLR, and of course your speaker connections. On the far right, you have again your stereo module, and that's because this is the 9-channel unit. Each one of these stereo modules can be replaced with another high-powered module if you have like the 7-channel version, and if you had the 11-channel version, you would get another pair of stereo inputs here. In testing this amplifier, I use both movies and music in a 2-channel configuration for both the high-powered and stereo modules. And I also compared it to my Denon AVR-X 4400H. Now, I use that AV receiver mainly as a basis to talk about what the differences are between an AV receiver and this with all the power that it can output. Now, I also set my speakers to full range, so they were sending out their entire frequency range from 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz. Now, I don't have any speakers that can actually reproduce 20 Hertz, but I wanted to get as much power out of both this and the AVR as I could and do my comparison. Now, the first thing I want to do before we talk sound quality is I'm going to play a couple of audio samples for you, 3 to be exact. It's going to be the same song 3 times, one with my Denon AVR, the other with the stereo modules, and the other with the high powered modules. So let's go ahead and let's listen to those. Hopefully you could hear a difference in those tracks. If you couldn't, trust me, there is a difference in the room. Now, I tried to pick a simple track mainly because it allows you to find one thing to listen for in each one of the tracks. Now, if you didn't really do that, why don't you go back and listen to it? But if you did, let's go ahead, let's talk about sound quality. And first things first, there is not a tonal shift when you add this into your system. If your speakers sound warm, they're still going to sound warm. They sound neutral, bright, whatever they sound before you add this is going to sound the same. There's no tonal shift, but you do get additional clarity and detail, especially with the high powered module once you add this into your system. I was watching a movie and the actors were outside talking, so there were birds chirping, the wind was blowing, and the mics were picking all of that up. Now, the 3 different setups that I used, you could hear it all, but the high-powered module definitely gave you more detail and clarity in the image. The birds sounded sharper, and you could almost place where they were in space relative to the mics. Now, I couldn't really do that as well, or I couldn't hear it as well with the Denon AVR or the stereo module. But the stereo module did sound just a little bit clearer than my Denon AVR. These results are also the same when I was listening to music. There was a part in a song I was listening to where a drummer was just tapping on the hi-hat. And with the high-powered module, I mean, those taps were nice and crisp and clean. I felt like I could almost even hear the ridges on the cymbal as it moved. And I didn't get that much detail from the stereo module or the Denon AVR. So let's talk about the stereo module. Now, you won't get as much detail or clarity as you will from the high-powered module, but these aren't made for the front soundstage. They're really made for the rears and overhead channels. Now, the front soundstage, you want as much detail and clarity as you can get because that's where the bulk of your music obviously is coming from, but also your vocals and everything else. Now, in the rears and overheads, you're not getting as much information being sent to them, so you don't need as much detail or clarity. Now, the 65 watts these put out is pretty good and it sounds good, but it's not as good as the high-powered modules, but I do think they meet their intended purpose, so I don't really have any issue with them. Overall, I highly recommend the XPA lineup of receivers from Emotiva. I mean, the fact that you can buy this chassis and it comes in basically any configuration you need for your room from 2 channels to 11 channels, and they even have a build your own custom order one from this chassis if you really want that. So you have a lot of flexibility. It has all the connections you need to connect to a processor or a AV receiver, and I really like those binding posts. They're really nice and high quality. You've got the status indicators up front, and you can turn that light on and off depending on what you want. So Emotiva's done a great job, and it's not like, 2,000 pounds or anything like that. You're getting the clarity, you're getting the depth of image. Your movies and your music are going to sound even better than they already do. You're going to hear things that you don't hear with the same amount of detail, same amount of clarity. It's really, really nice. So if you want to purchase this or anything else from Emotiva, why don't you use those links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We'll talk to you next time.